So welcome to another video from theplayersaid.com. My name's Alexander.
And I'm Grant.
And today we're taking a look, finally, at Heroes of Normandy. That's right. That's all it's called.
Big Red 1 edition.
It says Heroes of World War II on the top. And so I was like, is it Heroes of World War II? No. So Heroes of Normandy, specifically the Big Red 1 edition. Yeah. So this is the Heroes system by Devil Pig Games.
A French publisher.
And this is a system or a series or a line of games that's been out for a while.
I want to say Big Red 1 was maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and then since they've done Stalingrad, I think they've done a Cthulhu one as a lark probably, and then they most recently did a Pacific Kickstarter that we backed.
Yes.
That will probably be fulfilled early next year.
Well, and we got this, which this is the kind of base game, as part of the Battle of Khan.
Yep. Which was a kind of a second expansion.
Yeah.
I have a whole bunch of other boxes at home. We just did the base Big Red 1 edition first.
Yes.
With the Bloody Omaha battle pack. In fact, we played 2 scenarios.
Yes.
One to learn it, and then one that was a little more difficult and involved.
So wanted to just kind of start there. You will probably see more of this on this channel over the course of time as we play it more and as we experience more of the expansions or the Pacific one. So yeah, we played a learning game of just the base game.
Yep.
So this is we played it 2-player. I think it has a larger some team modes and stuff.
That I'm not sure about, but probably.
If you have some of the bigger sets, I would imagine.
There's 2.
Maybe only 2. You could
potentially.
You could figure that out somehow.
If you remember the Bloody Omaha, one of the scenarios we did, it was huge. I had 3 or 4 landing craft with 5 or 6 units per.
You could figure it out.
Yeah.
But so it's a 2-player tactical game. I have heard this referred to as like a miniatures game in a box.
I would agree with that.
Because this has it has all these historical scenarios. However, this has you can do totally free builds and has build points and army listing if you want.
And they're not plastic miniatures; they are flat cardboard formations that represent like a tank or a little squad or a rifle crew. And actually, it's very well done.
Extremely.
It works well. The boards work well. They're not hexagons; they're squares.
Yes.
With terrain and different symbols imposed on them. Some of them mean different things.
And then there's a billion tiles that you can put on those as well. So a board is literally just like a big cardboard piece with squares on it, and
they're dual-sided.
Pictures. But then you'll see the hedges and the bushes have borders around them that define these are the hedgerows, and there's a bunch of symbols that say if you're attacking from this direction, there is a penalty to shooting into cover.
Degrading fire or cover.
Or vehicles can't drive over this, or they can, but they must stop, kind of a thing.
Here, no one can cross from this hex or this square to this square through the hedge. That's impassable.
And so you get all of the kind of reasonable amount of detail that you would want in a tactical game, whilst still being very light.
Yeah.
It was not particularly complex to learn.
No.
There's lots of different symbols and stuff, so once you learn that, you kind of got it all down. But I was happily surprised at how quick playing it was.
Well, and not just quick playing, but it was fun. I mean, it was an interesting squad level tactical game. There's some really cool mechanics, right? You have cards that they're like, I want to call them like boosters, right?
Yes.
You can add to attacks, you can move again or move an additional space. So they're not necessarily your activation cards, but they're kind of, when you activate a unit or a squad, you can play a card on them to do something a little more.
Which you can never predict that from someone else, so you can never perfectly plan.
Well, and the cards, I think, are fairly random, so it's not like you have the same set of cards you're drawing from a deck. I think the really cool thing that they do that I really enjoyed was the activation mechanic.
Agreed.
So based on the size of your armies, you're going to have blocks, and they're wooden blocks that have your symbol. So I was the Americans, you were the...
It was the Germans.
Was I the Germans or you were the... anyway.
I was the Germans.
You were the Germans, I was the Americans. So I had 4 blocks that had 1, 2, 3, 4 on them.
And then a bluff
And then we had a bluff one, like a nothing. And at the beginning of the turn, the first player would put their number 1 somewhere out on the board on a unit.
Well, you'd put some number.
Right, it could be number 4.
You'd put all these out back and forth.
Yep.
Which is like giving them orders.
Yeah. But you don't, as the enemy, the opponent, you don't know what numbers they're putting out or what order. That's what I was trying to
you can
describe.
see who's got. And then when you get into the game, you then have to peel them off numerically.
Number 1, 2, 3, and 4. And it creates some fog of war, right? I don't know which units for you are going to act first. I don't know which of mine are going to necessarily go first compared to yours. I know my order.
Yes.
But then that bluff one also is very cool because it can create, and that one can be pulled last.
And the amount of blocks you have is like based on all of the command ratings. I think it's like the stars
Something like
you
that,
have.
yeah.
So in some bigger games or games
You
where
might
you have
have
really
6 or
elite
8.
guys and commanders, you can get into like really large
Yeah.
amounts of those. Or if your commanders die,
You lose
you've
those.
got like 3 to get out, and you're like, oh no.
But I thought that activation mechanic was
was
very
really
well
fun.
done. I thought it was, created that fog of war, that uncertainty. And to me, that's one of the great things about tactical games is I just don't know exactly what's going to happen. Battles never necessarily go according to plan or even the way you think they're going to happen. But, that activation system was very cool. Other than that, units, when they're activated, can do... you can do a move. You can do a move and shoot. You can do a
shoot.
A shoot.
You can do some special action.
There's any number of things that you can do, and you're trying to reach certain objectives. I know the first scenario we played, it was not kill people. Now, killing people is a good thing because then you stop them from being able to advance. But it was advancing upon a certain 4 or 5 squares.
You had to be there, and no one else can be around it. Very typical of miniatures games, and also like tactical games.
So to show you, I think our first game lasted like, I want to say 2 rounds, or maybe 2, because I got a special card that allowed me to add, I think it was 2 movement to one of my guys.
You got an extra activation on the guy
or
who
something.
Activated.
Maybe that's what it was.
And so I was thinking, sweet, it's going to be hairy, but I've got another turn because he can't get specifically into the space that he needed to.
But I played that card that allowed me to move again, and that got me into position.
And then I couldn't get you out.
Yeah. Which, that's a game, right?
That's
a gaminess of a tactical system.
And I don't think a game that looks like this is pretending to be the most serious and hardcore of games. I believe that this game meets its thesis, where it's trying to just like be
light
a
fun
game.
Yeah, but also somewhat historically correct. Yeah. And I will say this, the caricatures here are...
The artwork's fantastic.
Fantastic. They're very common of what you would think of American GIs with a big cigar, and they'd rip their sleeves off.
And look at the baddies on the side of the box.
Yeah.
That's the most evil guy you've ever seen.
I mean, you're the baddie when you got the death's head skull.
And look at this guy that's definitely not against IP law.
Yeah, right.
But look at this. Come on, man. It's pulpy, it's fast playing, and it's fun.
Yeah.
There's a couple issues that I have with this game.
Yeah.
One is that if you don't have the storage system, good luck to you.
Yeah.
This company makes like this storage tray system.
But it was a lot of money.
Yes.
In addition.
You have to figure out a way to store this.
Yeah.
Because once you punch it all, you can't unpunch it.
Well,
and there's a ton in the box.
And you've got to keep it organized because units are specifically assigned to certain formations, and then types of units are assigned to formations.
Yeah.
So in order to be able to readily set the game up, you've got to have those well organized, either in individual bags by formation. I'm a little worried about that, right?
Yes.
I've still got some of it set up at my house under my table we brought this over to shoot the video. I got to go back and figure out how to get it
Did we
organized.
do the storage system for the Pacific?
I did. I went ahead and spent the extra money because I was like, okay.
We oopsed on this one.
Because I want to be able to keep it and get it out and play it quickly.
Yes.
I don't want to have to. And frankly, when we were going through those counter sheets, it took a good 45 minutes to get set up the first time.
And that was it. Setting up the first one wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
We played a second scenario from Bloody
That's what
Omaha.
I meant. Yep.
And it was this big D-Day landing thing. Very cool.
Yeah.
But also, that was an absolute pain to set up. Because it uses some of the base stuff, some of this stuff, and it does not differentiate between the two. Doesn't point you with that. And do you remember the setup diagrams where they're so small?
Yeah, it was hard to see.
So that was
another complaint.
That was the
I
other
had.
issue that I really had is that, like, the setup diagrams that they have are pictorial, and I appreciate that in an order of battle, but like, boy, is it difficult to see when tiny little edges of the counters are what's important because of the colors.
And you would need a magnifying glass, frankly, to be able to properly use those.
I was having
diagrams.
a hard time with it, let alone other people.
But yeah, the Bloody Omaha is a battle pack that I got as part of that Big Red One. This was very fun. Totally different style of combat on the open beach. You had tank traps. You had sea walls. You had Bangalore torpedoes that I was trying to run up to the wall and blow a hole through it.
And then drive up. Oh.
Landing craft that appeared staggeringly, like over a certain amount of time. And then, frankly, the German player was up on the heights with these machine guns,
artillery pieces, blowing everything up.
And it was, I lost one or two men every time because that artillery gun was so powerful and had a range of 4 or 5 squares.
Yeah.
So I had to kind of get
dispersed. This game lives up to its name. Yeah. That's for sure.
Very different feeling, and I actually really appreciated that. We had that simple experience with the first one.
Finding
and then
some hedgerows.
We got this out, and it was a longer game. It was a little more involved. A lot more frustrating, particularly for the Americans.
So difficult.
But it was very cool. Like, I enjoyed what it was trying to do. And I think upon a second play of that, it would have been totally you would have placed your gun differently.
Yes, we learned a lot, that's for sure.
Therefore, I would have moved my people a little differently. Just very interesting. The other thing about that landing wave thing was I think it was 7 or 8 points worth of men.
7 at most, on the big ones.
And most of the men are 2 to 3. So you had 2 or 3, maybe 4 guys able to come on each wave, and that's not a lot of people.
No.
Not when you're trying to cover a great...
And you're up against the clock.
Yeah, it was a hard scenario,
Very
but it should be, right? I mean, Bloody Omaha, if you're going to call it Bloody Omaha, I don't want it to be
if it's a cakewalk,
simple.
You've made a bad game.
But I did like the battle pack system because it gave some variety, added some extra or different types of missions, in addition to the basic.
Does it say how many missions it added?
Well, it had. Let me see.
I don't know if it says, because I was surprised.
This had about 8 or 10 boards.
Yeah,
and we only used like 4 of them.
Like, look at this little guy. I cannot tell you how much stuff was in this box alone.
A ton of stuff.
I was like almost annoyed at how many punch boards were in it.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, this is so much.
Yeah, it's a lot.
So at worst, you get really good value with how much is in this and how much you can replay that. And once again, you can play through the scenarios.
Yeah.
Or you can play this as a skirmish game where you have, I'm going to get 150 points and I'm going to build this. And then it's like the sky's the limit for you.
And there's everything, right? There's tanks, there's tank destroyers, there's aircraft, there's big guns, landing craft.
All sorts of weapon teams, bazookas, flamethrowers. You had the
rifle
engineers
team.
for the Bangalore torpedoes, snipers.
You had heroes. Our heroes never really came into it, I didn't think, that much. But they were there, and they typically had better stats. And
I think my German hero could attack twice or something
Got
stupid.
it.
He was a sniper or something. He could just get people across the board.
But the combat system, very simple. It's a combination of, a factor that you need to overcome, kind of a defense number. Typically that's 3 or 4, maybe a 5 if they're behind
some terrain,
a wall. And then you've got a 6-sided dice you roll, and you're looking for a 5 or a 6.
Add your little modifiers to it if you've got any.
and I hit you, I flip your counter over. If the counter didn't have a reduced side, eliminated. And some of the counters they were just single hits, and so very simple, very fast playing. I think they do have bigger scenarios, but I really enjoyed this, and frankly, I want to get to the Battle for Cannes stuff because it's brand new. This is
and that's got all the British in it as well.
It does.
People
So
can appreciate.
Lots of. I think I have 3 boxes of that. I will do an unboxing video for that because this was older, just kind of a reprint and a reboxing. But I'll do an unboxing for that. I would like to play that as well. And we have the Pacific. I backed the Pacific.
Is that 2024?
It's like March of 2024. But it has 3 or 4 boxes as well.
And is it just US and Japanese, or does it also have other stuff?
I don't know that I can remember. I'm sure they have Anzac or British. I'm sure they do. But overall, I've been impressed by this system. I've been impressed by the rule books. Even though it's a French translation, I thought it was fairly clear.
Well, and frankly, I would expect it to be. Because this is... it's gone through a number of revisions in errata, and when we bought this wasn't the first edition of it.
Sure.
Companies that don't respond to that kind of feedback, great.
Yeah.
But they've done a good job. I felt it was very easy to kind of pick up and learn. And there's a lot of symbols and numbers in it, and it's generally pretty easy to kind of remember those, even if you're oh, what does that mean? Well, your number's right there.
Yeah. But I had a good time with this. I enjoyed playing it, and I think that's the hallmark of a good game, right? Would I immediately want to play it again? Yes.
And we did.
and we did, and then I think we just ran out of time.
Yes.
Or we would have probably played again. But look for more from this
Absolutely.
from us. I know we'll take Battle for Cannes through its paces, and then definitely next year when the Pacific shows up, we'll run it. I looked at the Stalingrad as well.
I think they also did a Warhammer 40,000 themed version of this.
Oh, okay.
I'm almost 100% positive of that. But yeah, the Stalingrad one, people are it's amazing.
Well, it just looks cool. The art, I like the art style. I really do. I think they've done a good job.
It's pulpy
and fun.
It's
not light.
Yeah.
But yeah, really good product. I think I enjoyed it significantly. Definitely would play it again.
Does it have? I don't know if... Is there a solo module to it?
There is. I have a box that's a solo. I have not explored that.
No, but people are going to ask.
Oh, yeah.
And I felt like I'd remembered seeing that.
It was an add-on. You had to add it on. It's a box with some charts, some tables. I think it has some cards in it and outlines how you can play it solo.
Because that way, if you want, if you don't want to sit there and paint all the tanks and men like I've done, like a crazy person, you can buy this box, and this is Tabletop Miniatures feel in a box. More than a lot of other games that claim to have done that.
Yeah, well, and here I'll just show you some of the counters. I mean, they're really great. Like, here's one of the leaders. The other cool thing I thought about like this is a leader, and you'll notice he's a ranger, but he has this window here. And that window is for equipment,
a special ability.
A special ability. So there's a lot of variability to these things and what you can and can't do. The other thing I liked is, for instance, here's one of the formation. So you have these little formations sitting in front of you. You might have 3 or 4, and you're going to actually have who these guys are, so you understand who the leader is, how many command stars he has, and then what different abilities that these guys have. It's very well done. There you can see the little...
Yeah, so this is what they inherently have in there, and that is absolutely tiny. And then you're going to go and find your support squad that has 3 units
there
in
you
it,
go.
Which is also...
very tiny.
That's just... Like, I struggled with being able to... Okay, this little guy, what does the counter of him look like?
Right.
That's my only real beef with the game, is that was kind of a pain.
Well, and here's a look at this is a Thunderbolt, so it's an aircraft.
Those are a bit more abstract.
Yeah, Focke-Wulf, very cool. These are things that you can see there, that's worth 60 points, so that's not a cheap asset to have. But if you do the free build, you can build your own army that way. The other thing I really enjoyed about the system was you had the different little pieces of equipment. You know, you had different guns, pistols, grenades.
It's very customizable.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like I could kind of load out my guys how I wanted, and that was kind of unique and interesting. I think some of my guys, if I'm trying to remember, had a sticky bomb when we had the tanks, and that was kind of cool. I had a flamethrower, never got to use it because the scenario ended pretty quickly. But, you know, there's a lot of that customization and variability in the different types of units that you got. I think they've done a great job really making this a very replayable game.
No, this is infinitely replayable, that's for sure. But it's also a really good value. You obviously don't have to get all of it.
No.
If you were to just buy just this core box for the price that you're going to pay for that, you're going to get your money's worth out of it.
Yeah.
I mean, in the same way that you would out of like a Commands and Colors game or something like that. There's probably more, honestly, in this than those. There's so much to it.
And if you like tactical games, this is a game that I think you're going to like. So we had a good time with it.
Yes. So, Heroes of Normandy Big Red 1 Edition from Devil Pig Games. Check it out if this is something you're interested in. You will see more of this in the future.
Yeah, we'll definitely get it back to the table and then get the other Battle for Can stuff back on the table.
But appreciate you tuning in. I'm Alexander from theplayersaid.com.
And I'm Grant.